Last week we started the chapter of Hajj, the fiqh of Hajj. Some of us we've already been for Hajj, and for some of us we haven't. And so it's good to realize for those of us who haven't gone yet, to prepare at least in advance of what are the requirements of Hajj. And last week we went through the word where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. For people, for Allah, upon people is the Hajj, whoever has istita'a, whoever has the ability. And we define, how can we define who has the ability and istita'a? We defined it in 3 ways. Can anyone remind us how did we define istita'a? Which one? Saying, okay. Okay, yeah. Physically, financially. So that would be physically. Financially, and the other one is the aman, the actual way, the path that is open. So istita' means that you have the money, right? Physically you're healthy. And number 3 is the path there is clear. Because you could have the money, but you might not have the wealth, and you might not have the path. You could have the money and the health, but the path could be closed, right? COVID, people had the money. Imagine someone passed away in the year of COVID. That means that they didn't have the path there. So these 3 elements comprise what we call istita' and capability. So if you have all these 3, you have the wealth, you have the health, and the road is safe. If you have that, then Hajj becomes mandatory upon you. That's the obligation. And if you delay it and delay it and delay it, and something happens and you're not able to go, and Allah will hold us accountable. So this is istita'a. Okay, so now we move on. We know who needs to go. Okay, what are the procedures in Hajj? What are the foundational elements of Hajj? That these are the mandatory. So we all know the first thing that a person does when they're on their way to Mecca, they'll maybe fly over Jeddah, or they'll stop over maybe in Egypt. The first thing you'll do is you'll put your ihram, right? Most people, if you're going Medina, then you will put your ihram at Juhfa, or the miqat. So ihram it's got 2 elements. Usually when we think of ihram, we just think of the clothing. But ihram is the actual intention. The clothing is one element, but you're not in the state of ihram until you make the intention in your head. So a person could go from here, from America, in the state of ihram with the 2 clothing, but they're not actually in the state of ihram until they make that intention in their head that Allahumma inni uridul hajj. Like, until they make that intention, they're not actually completely in the state of ihram. So the first thing is the state of ihram. A person cannot fulfill hajj unless and until they are in ihram. What if a person, maybe for example, never understood about ihram and about miqat, about the boundaries, because there are certain boundaries. So a person must put on the ihram before the boundaries. The Prophet ﷺ, he stipulated. So he said, for the people of Medina, it is a certain area. For the people of Sham, it is Juhfa. For the people of Yemen, it's Yalamlam. For the people of Iraq, it's Dhatu. For the people of Najd, it's Qarn al-Manazil. So he mentioned this. So this is basically the boundaries of Mecca. So a person, before they enter the boundaries of Mecca with that intention of Hajj and Umrah, they must put the ihram, which is the white clothing. But if a person goes, they didn't understand, they didn't recognize, and they go inside, then they can literally come out into the miqat, into what we call the hill, and they put it on and they go back in. It's fine. So now that's the ihram. Does that make sense? So the ihram is what? The clothing and more importantly, the intention. Okay, so we've got our ihram on now. When can a person actually start that intention? When can a person? The season of Hajj starts from Shawwal, in fact. A person could start his intention from Shawwal. Straight after Ramadan, Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah. They could be in a state of ihram from Shawwal. Now, what will happen is that we have the 5 main days: the 8th, Yawm al-Tarwiyah; the 9th, Yawm Arafah; the 10th, which is Yawm al-Nahr, the day of Eid; and the 11th, 12th, Ayyam al-Tashriq. Right? These 5 days. What are the fara'id? Which ones do we have to do? The farad is what we mentioned, the ihram. What about the pillars? What must we do? So there are, according to the Ahnaf, there are 2 rukn, there are 2 arkan, 2 pillars, that if you don't do, then basically your hajj doesn't count. Number 1 is staying in Arafah, and number 2 is tawaful ifadah. So that's the tawaf on the 10th. After you've done your, you've done the Ramiul Jamarat, after you've done the dhabah, when you come back, that tawaf, that is a must, right? These are arkan. According to, so this is actually unanimous, these 3. So which is the ihram, the white clothing, Yawm Arafah. So if you're not in Yawm Arafah, if you're not in Arafah on the 9th at all, then your hajj does not count. Your hajj is incomplete. Whatever your excuse is, if you're not in Arafah on that day, even for a moment on the 9th, your hajj doesn't count. Tawaful ifadah, if you don't do that tawaf after you've done your hajj, it doesn't count. The Shawafi', they also add the sa'i to the rukn. They say that the sa'i, between Safa and Marwa, this is also a pillar. So according to the Ahnaf, which majority of people here are, is the rukn is what? Number 1, the ihram, that's a farad. Number 2 is, we mentioned Mabitu Arafah and Qiyamu Arafah. And number 3 is Tawaful Ifadah. Tawaful Ifadah. Now, what are the wajibat? So, when we say rukn means if you don't do that, then your hajj isn't accepted. Wajibat means that if you do that, if you miss that out, then that won't invalidate your hajj. You can either pay a dam, a penalty if you miss it, but it does not invalidate your hajj. So what are the wajibat? The wajibat are the majority of the things that you do on the day of Eid. So we mentioned on the 8th, it's sunnah to go to Mina, to stay the night and the day in Mina. Then after that, you go to Arafah, right? You go after Zawal, after midday, you go to Arafah until Maghrib. Then after Maghrib, you'll go to a place called Muzdalifah. So Arafah and Muzdalifah are on the night. You spend the night in Muzdalifah. Muzdalifah is an open land. Thereafter, so this was what day? The 9th day. The next day, what do you do in the morning? After Fajr, where do you go? You go to do Ramiul Jamarat. Once you've done the Ramiul Jamarat, you do your halaq and you do your dhabah. So the things that we do on that Eid day, which is the pouting of the shaitan, the major shaitan, Jamaratul Aqaba, that is wajib. Wajib means that you must do it, but for some reason, say you didn't do it and you missed it, it won't invalidate your hajj. You would give a dam. you would give an animal sacrifice because that is a large penalty. If you do not stay in Muzdalifah on the, what you call it, the ninth night, then you would give, again, that's a wajib. That's a wajib. What else do we do? The shaving of the hair. After you've done, basically, after you've done all this, the pelting of the jamarat, after you've, what do you call it, after your animal has been sacrificed, you've done all that, then you do your tawaful ifada, then you do the shaving, right? So the shaving is wajib. So either you can shave everything, but it's more virtuous to shave everything, or you can trim. It's more virtuous to shave everything. So that is another wajib. Sa'i between Safa and Marwa is wajib. So if someone misses out for some reason, it will not invalidate the Hajj, but they will need to pay a penalty. The what else? The Ramyul Jamarat, this is also a wajib. So all the things that we do on the 10th day, they are wajib. If someone misses it for some reason, someone gets sick, then what do? They would just give the dam. And thereafter, on the 11th, what do? You go again for the pelting. You pelt all three this time. So on the Eid day, how many did you pelt? Just one. You just pelt the biggest one. But on the 11th and on the 12th, you would pelt all three of the jamarat, all three of the pillars, right? And so the main thing that we need to know is that you need to be in Arafah on the night. That is a rukn, that is a pillar. And you need to do tawaful ifada. So once you've done all the things on Eid day, so you've, what do you call it, you've pouted, you've shaved your hair, you've done your dabah, then you do your tawaful ifada. Yes. Sa'i, yeah. So that's the wajib. Yeah, that's the wajib with the tawaful ifada. So if you miss it, again, what do? You would give them. But if it was something small, for example, you wore stitched clothing for like an hour, you would just give a small penalty. You wouldn't give the whole sheet, you just feed someone. If you, for example, covered your face, because in the state of ihram, you cannot cover your head, you cannot trim your hair, you cannot pluck your hair, you cannot cover your feet, you cannot wear stitched clothing, you cannot wear fragrances. And so if you did, for example, cover your hair for, say, half an hour, you just feed someone, you wouldn't do something big. Yeah. No, you just do one. Just do one. Yeah. Pelting, Pelting, yeah, pelting like with a rock. So basically, there's these three, they're called jamarat, they're massive actually. So it's when Prophet Abraham, he was going to sacrifice his son, Ishmael, and Satan came along the way trying to dissuade him from, acting upon the command of God. And so we're kind of saying that we're fighting, it's our fight against Satan metaphorically. Does that make sense? Yeah. No worries, inshallah. Hopefully that makes sense and gives you some sort of idea, inshallah, when you intend to go to Hajj, you can. Yeah. Yeah, just do it. Just do it again. Yeah. Just do it again. Yeah. That's why maybe sometimes like trim the first time and then shave the second. Trim for the That's what I done when I went. I trimmed for the Umrah and then shaved for the Hajj. Yeah. Exactly. So this is the difference. So for Umrah, you have to go out. So if you're in the area, you have to go out. Whereas in Hajj, you can do your ihram from the home. That's how the Prophet ﷺ done it. So for Umrah, that's why you go to Masjid Aisha, which is the Tan'een. So that's called like the hill. That's the miqat for the people that live inside Mecca. So for Umrah, you go outside the boundaries. For Hajj, you can do it from your hotel. That's the difference. So you don't need to go out for Hajj. that make sense? I remember Hassan, you asking me about that. Yeah, it came to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Um, no, so there are three type of Hajj. One is called Tamattu, one is called Qiran, and one is called Ifrad. Tamattu is where you do Umrah first, you come out of the Ihram, and then you go back into Ihram for Hajj. That's the easiest. Qiran is where you don't come out of your Ihram, so you do Umrah, but you don't do your, sa'i and everything. You continue, you stay in the Ihram until the Hajj is finished. And so that is the more difficult one. And then Ifrad is where you do Hajj by itself. So some people, some scholars, they say Tamattu is better. Some say Qiran, the other one is better. Why? Because you're spending a longer, it's more difficult, right? Imagine like you're going, most people, they go 5 days before Hajj, right? So it'll be 5 days plus then 8, 9, 10. It's like 8 days you cannot shave your hair, you cannot do anything, right? And so most people they do the tamattu where they do the umrah first and then